Sure, thanks, Jerry. Remember to, everybody, turn the microphones on when you speak tonight. Roll call, Jerry Cabasco.
Here.
Kirsten Erickson. Robert Perry.
Here.
Tracy Smadilla.
Here.
Annette Gutenkoff.
Here.
Bill Laporte.
Here.
Alan Walensky. Michelle Hughes. They're absent. Robert Gorski.
Here.
Good, our newest commissioner here tonight, and we have a quorum.
Next will be a discussion of the approval of the previous April 12th meeting minutes. Do we have any discussion or?
No, I make a motion to approve the minutes as presented. I second.
I'd like to make a comment, though, if I would. On the second page in the first paragraph, where it says that Amelia Alexian Brothers office at Oak and Hickory, I don't think that's the correct street intersection, because Oak and Hickory is the firehouse. So I'm not sure what the correct intersection would be, but that doesn't seem right to me.
Okay, we'll make that amendment.
Thank you.
Further discussions, or can we approve the minutes?
Point of order, we'd make a secondary motion to approve the minutes as amended by staff.
Okay, agreed to. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Public comment, do we have any public, anybody in the public want to make a comment at this point? Okay, if not, we will move on to agenda item number 5, Trackside Diner BEDA application. Tony, you want to lead the discussion on this?
Yes, thank you, Jerry. Trackside Diners, a new business here in downtown Bartlett, right across the street, just a few steps from here, in the space that had been previously occupied by O'Hare's Pub and Restaurant, which you all know has expanded and relocated along with the bowling alley in Streets of Bartlett. I think they were here probably in January or February presenting their own BEDA grant. And then right on their coattails, here the owners, Monica Bashlari and Brennan Lucado, began work fairly soon after O'Hare's vacated the space earlier this year, and they opened their diner concept in late March. So they've just opened very recently. As you all know, we've strongly encouraged over the years outdoor dining. It adds a nice vibrancy to the area. It draws new customers when they see people sitting outside. I always joke around that we have to make the best out of the limited months of nights like tonight. On my way in here, driving past Streets of Bartlett, for instance, you can see right now there's lots of people dining outdoors over there. It adds a real nice vibrancy and attracts new customers. So both Scott and myself have encouraged them to add outdoor dining to their new restaurant as well, since a lot of the businesses currently in Town Center, Two Toots doesn't have any. Their whole concept is serving you by train. Marco's does offer outdoor seating, but it's very rarely used. So we'd like to see some outdoor dining right across the street here in Town Center. So we alerted them to the BEDA program a couple of months ago as a way to possibly help them out in terms of adding that to their restaurant. So with the BEDA application you have tonight, they have estimated the cost to be $5,000, which includes 8 tables, 16 chairs, 4 parking stoppers, and some fencing. The fencing estimate's a bit over $2,300, including tax. Umbrellas are about $800, curb stoppers $373, tables and seating $1,938. So the estimate for the quotes that they had turned in as part of the application come out to just about $5,400. So it is, we've mentioned frequently, our fiscal year begins May 1, and I think this will be the fourth, I want to say the fourth year of offering BEDA grants. The village board funds it to the tune of about $250,000, which we take some of the village's share, most of the share of the video gaming revenues that the village gets to fund this program. So staff see this to be a good addition to the business, and Bartlett Town Center, as I mentioned. Two Toots doesn't offer it, and then, like I said, Marco's Pizza rarely has any outdoor diners. So we're recommending a grant in the amount of $2,000, percentage-wise, which comes out to a little under 40%. Really, their application, they wrote 5,000, so that would be 40%. But as I mentioned, the quotes that they turned in come out to $5,400. And again, also seeing as how this is about I don't know the exact number, maybe 10th BEDA grant, the projects tend to run a little more expensive sometimes rather than less. So we are recommending a $2,000 BEDA grant, which we hope enhances their business, also leads to some increased sales, and adds to the outdoor dining opportunities here in downtown Bartlett. And the petitioners are here tonight to tell you anything about their business or answer any questions that you may have. And also, I had included in the physical packet a copy of the menu. So, I mean, they'll tell you, but it's a diner concept. And like I said, they filled a pretty big space relatively quickly after it became available. So the petitioners are here to address you and answer any questions you have.
Well, I think it's fantastic that you stepped up and you filled a space in the town center. I think some of us were concerned when O'Hare's was moving on to the streets of Bartlett that location may sit empty. So welcome, we're glad you're here. And I think the prospect of a breakfast and lunch place is quaint. I did take a look at your menu, so you're keeping it nice and simple. So we hope you're very, very successful. I have a few questions regarding the application that you submitted. And I guess the first one that I would ask is it's relative to the space that you're going to be putting your tables and your chairs. And I don't remember, I think O'Hare's had limited outdoor seating for a while, and they kind of went out into the parking lot a little bit. Is that the same concept are you going to be right on the sidewalk?
Correct, it'll be on the actual sidewalk.
Okay,
So
all right.
as we stand right now, I have 4 tables currently on the sidewalk right now. And we're gonna actually have that partitioned off by fencing, as well as some nice bright red umbrellas out there too, to really brighten up the space.
Okay.
We will be all on the sidewalk.
Okay, and so there won't be an issue with pedestrian traffic on there within the tables and chairs?
Absolutely not.
Okay, that's great. My other question is, when I looked at your invoices and then the actual application, it indicated, in the initial application, you were going to have 8 tables and 16 chairs, and your PO looked like you had 5 tables and 10 chairs and 5 umbrellas ordered. Is this going to be a 5-table operation?
Correct. Right now, it's gonna be 5. We initially thought 8 would be able to fit. Unfortunately, it doesn't.
Okay.
So we actually got 5 of the tables in more or less for sizing referencing.
Right.
We realized that 5 would probably be our magic number.
Sure, okay. And again, those would each seat 2 people, obviously with the space limitations.
Correct.
So how many seats do you have inside the restaurant?
I think it's 6.
66, okay, so this is gonna, okay, all right, that's another 15% increase, so that's terrific. Yeah, I don't have any other questions for the petitioners, so thank you very much for reaching out to us and taking advantage of this great program.
Thank you.
No further comments from the commissioners. Do we have a motion to approve the request?
So moved.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, roll call. Okay, could you have a roll call on the motion, please?
Sure. Joe Laporte,
Aye.
Tracy Smedilla,
Aye.
Kirsten Erickson, Jerry Kabasco,
Aye.
Robert Gorski,
Aye.
Nanette Gutenkopf,
Aye.
and Robert Perry.
Aye.
Thank you. I think that makes it more official. Thank you. We'll forward that to an upcoming committee of the whole meeting, I believe, probably first meeting in July.
Okay, next agenda item would be branding discussions. I believe, Tony, you're going to lead us through this?
Yes, we're gonna relaunch this. You can see the branding logo we've been using since the EDC created it back when I started in 2005. And recently, the village board had their annual strategic planning session, during which time they talked about launching a branding campaign as a marketing tool. So way back in January, I talked a little bit about branding as an important aspect of successfully marketing a community. There's a lot of towns throughout the northwest suburbs and the Chicago area, the country, the world. Branding is basically a mechanism where you try to distinguish yourself from the noise, so to speak, promote your unique proposition, what makes you different than Schaumburg or Hanover Park or Carroll Stream and all these surrounding communities. Having grown up playing a lot of sports, I always use the sports cliches that economic development is both a team sport. It's not something that one person wins on their own. It's an effort of many, many people, but also that it's competitive. And a lot of times, the businesses have large amounts of choices of where they want to locate. People have choices of where they want to live. Events can choose, whether to come to the community or not, investors and whatnot. So this is something that we're looking at using to help distinguish Bartlett from the surrounding area. So as we make our way out of the pandemic, which I also mentioned here at our last meeting in April, we still had a lot of projects that moved forward. I could sit here and rattle them off, but there were, besides the new Culvers, there were many new restaurants, mostly in the downtown, mostly in streets of Bartlett. Industrial development didn't really even hit the pause button during the pandemic. That kept going full strength. So we're looking at something that helps to continue positioning Bartlett well for the next several years in terms of a branding campaign. Not necessarily just a new logo to slap on everything for the next 10 years, but something that's more akin to marketing, to a multi-year marketing campaign. So I wrote in here, I said through the remainder of the 20s and beyond, but really we're looking at a multi-year campaign to get us through, let's say, late 21 through the next 2 to 3 years after that for a strong branding campaign. So the brief history is when I started here, and a couple of the commissioners were on the EDC back then. All the Bartlett branding had to do with pears. Bartlett pears, my favorite variety, but they also wanted to redo that to something a little more stylish and memorable than just slapping pears on everything. So the EDC went through a similar 6-month discussion. We had a consultant at the time. For those of you, Jerry and Kirsten, I should say, who remember, we worked with a consultant named Fran Guzell from Visual Edge, and they were kind of the leading branding consultant for towns at the time. So here we are in mid-2021 looking at incorporating a new branding strategy. Bartlett branding. Talked about this again this past January from a business perspective. Bartlett's eating and drinking establishments, all the way from the little Trackside diner, all the way to Moretti's and the new O'Hare's and really, really big places like Bannerman's. But it's one of our leading sales tax generators in town. And for anybody who over the years has said there's no place to go out in Bartlett, well, we keep adding constantly. We're constantly adding new venues. There's probably just numerically 7 or 8 more than there were here when we sat 2 years ago. So we have industrial strength, as I mentioned. All you need to do is drive by one of the industrial parks. You don't need to believe me saying it. The construction is constant. The investment is significant. We went from kind of standalone small business operations to Fortune 500 type of companies and institutional investors and speculative buildings that cost $40 to $50 million to build without a tenant in place. So we have industrial strength, and then, of course, quality of life, which I think is what Bartlett's probably most well known for. The nice, safe neighborhoods, the sports opportunities, community events, and things of that nature. So what we were talking about, we've been talking about at staff quite a bit, and what we're leaning towards and we want to get your thoughts on is to do a multi-year branding campaign. Like I said, not just a new logo and slogan, although we made some headway towards some good ideas on that already. But to do a multi-year advertising, branding, social media kind of campaign to put the Bartlett opportunities out there in front of people. We're seeking to engage a branding consultant. We think that branding and marketing a community is a little bit different than automotive parts or clothing or shoes or products, office products. There's a number of consultants out there who have done extensive branding campaigns or new slogans and campaigns for towns in the area. I could, at a later meeting, bring back some examples, but I think we would want to engage somebody with some experience specifically when it comes to communities. And this is kind of small for me to read, but some of the suggestions that I spent a good part of a day or two working on this last week, writing the memo and researching again what towns do when it comes to engaging a consultant or doing a branding campaign. And I mean, a lot of the bullet points, I can breeze through them, but a lot of them are self-explanatory. Like you want to conduct identity, image, and perception research. We're not going to brand ourselves as the biggest shopping town around here or the biggest office town. We don't have a lot of shopping. We don't have a lot of office, but we can, incorporate the strengths in what we do have. So, I mean, but that's a big part of it, conducting the identity, image, and perception research. It's not just something that comes from what staff thinks and the EDC. We want to engage the business community with their thoughts on it. We had talked about that briefly in January as well. We want to engage residents, get some of their thoughts. Some of the best ideas come from residents who have knowledge or interest, keen insights into the community. Surveys, we can utilize surveys. Even just the next town over, Hanover Park, they did a rebranding about 2 or 3 years ago, and I saw one of the things they did online and in their newsletter was they had a consultant who went out and did it was a very short survey. Theirs was only like 7 or 8 questions, but they had a survey nonetheless. Analysis of existing branding and marketing materials. What do we use it for? Identification of our assets, implementation, cost, strategy to staff. Here's the last point that I had to make sure to add, is not just hand us something and say, here it is, I'm collecting my check and we're out of here. It's something that we want to be able to utilize for for a couple of years. We're thinking maybe 2 or 3 years, 3 years perhaps is a good number for this. And I'm not saying that that's a comprehensive list in front of you. It's kind of broad, but that's why we're here tonight, to rekindle this discussion. And Trustee Gansey is here tonight, former Economic Development Commissioner. And we want to get all of your thoughts on how to best proceed, because we want it to be done right. We want it to be meaningful and something that you can embrace, whether you're a mom and pop restaurant who just wants to add a few seats outside, or whether you're like a McKesson or somebody of that ilk, or a developer coming to invest tens of millions of dollars into the industrial park. So I think that's the best quick synopsis, but we're here, Scott and I, to answer any questions you have about branding, and mostly we want to gather your thoughts on how you as commissioners think we should best proceed.
Well, I got a thought.
Go ahead.
So there's been a lot of strife throughout the country, burning and people going and destroying things, and towns getting brutalized by mayors that don't do anything about it. Correct me if I'm wrong, Bartlett is one of the safest towns. We voted what? I forgot.
Yeah, I forget exactly, but you're right. Ever since we've done the metrics, when we did the 2015 marketing plan, and every year, early in the year, I bring you, here's the huge economic indicators report. It's always been like roughly top 20 safest for towns of its size, so that's accurate. I can't remember the exact number. I just remember there was only one town in Illinois ahead of Bartlett this year in terms of overall safety from crime.
Is it safe to say that Bartlett is in the top 3 safest towns in Illinois?
Yes, the asterisk with that, again, it's based on size, 25,000 to whatever, 50.
If that being the case, how about eating, living, drinking in the top 3 safest town in Illinois?
I mean, if you're asking for my personal opinion, I think that's something we can use perhaps more in the advertising realm than putting it into like the actual imaging of it. But that seems like a nice thing. I remember back in January, Commissioner Gorski, I think, asked, are we targeting to bring in more residents, or are we using this more business-oriented? And I said, well, because we're EDC and we're talking about business most of the time, that I personally thought it was more in the business type of realm. But it would be better, I think, if we could, the words that we used back then, you recall, opportunity and connections, that can be used, you know, in a housing sense as well. We're not out there actively recruiting residents. If somebody builds 500 housing units in Bartlett, the 500 fill right away. But to get your point in terms of a branding campaign, that's a nice thing to incorporate into it, into some kind of ad. Connect to one of the safest towns in the country. Opportunity to live in the safest town in the country.
Seems that there's a lot of people that are moving to safer places from what they've seen in their towns. And I think maybe we want to brand ourselves to be a safe place to come and live.
Yeah. And I do want to mention that applies to the businesses as well. I've been asked that numerous times. Really, when it comes to the industrial park, some of the businesses move from areas where the owners and the employees aren't as comfortable leaving from second or third shift. I won't name the towns, but I've had that said to me before, that they weren't comfortable having their workers leaving at midnight or coming and going at midnight. And I've always assured them that's not an issue here in town.
Well, I think Bob hit something hit a nail on the head, in that, you know, we can identify safety as being an asset of the community.
Right.
Again, that's a message that would I think, resonate with any of the multiple audiences that we're targeting, whether it's for commerce or retail and dining or residential. But I think what we do is, again, let's think about the assets that we have, and I think there's an opportunity to craft, I don't mean to say generic, but it's, just kind of a broad-based message that, again, would resonate with those target audiences. And then from there, you have you just drill down specific messaging to the developers, for example, or the folks that are, looking to relocate to Bartlett. Certainly different messaging that's specific to retail and dining, and then that for more industrial commerce.
Right, we're not looking for something that only applies to one and nothing else.
Right. Well, yeah, and I'm glad that we're discussing that, because in the previous slide, I think it really looked like we were targeting the retail and the dining.
Yeah, a little bit, a little bit. A lot of the stuff where you end up sending branding or using branding tends to be in trade shows and advertising a lot of the time. It's something that, I firmly believe, and not just me, really, it's a very attractive town from a residential standpoint. Some of the projects that we're working on in the residential realm, a lot of them sell out prior to. I'm not saying we don't need to work ever to attract additional residents, but it's always been more of a challenge to attract business, retail, grocery store, hotel, things like that, than it has been to attract people to build more homes. The home builders will generally build homes wherever you allow them to.
I think businesses are concerned about safety. They don't want to be burglarized, vandalized, and have fire bombs thrown at them. I think the safety is business and the citizens who want to come and live here.
Yeah.
I think that would attract both sides.
I agree. Well, wasn't trying to give you the comprehensive list of what we're looking for to get back to talking about bringing in a consultant. I've talked here before about being part of Access O'Hare West, and we're actually meeting again in person for the first time this Thursday since probably February of 2020. We interviewed, I think it was probably 6 different branding consultants over a period of 2 or 3 meetings. I think we had 2 people come in at a time usually and go kind of through a PowerPoint and here's what we've done. So I think before we start really delving deep into the attributes of the community, the tack that we've talked about in staff is to going out either for an RFP for a consultant or just bringing a few consultants here to go through their slides to show you, here's what I've done in Glen Ellen, here's what I've done in Naperville, here's what I've done in Skokie. Because, at one point or another, most of these towns go through branding initiatives every 10 years, every 15 years or so. So I think what we're more asking tonight, besides, how we exactly go about the branding campaign, is if there's something glaring that we missed in this, and, some of the attributes that we're looking for, or even if any of you want to do research of, branding experts that in the area. I think towns are more particular than, like, say, for a restaurant or a store.
Well, the only thing I'm seeing that
Could you turn on your so I can hear you.
Sorry. The only thing I'm seeing, Tony, that's missing that I'd like to see is giving a chance to the Bartlett High School, like business students, to have some input. I think would be good for them as future business people to kind of come in, say some ideas. They have younger, hipper ideas, not that we need to be like young and hip and all that kind of stuff, but they may hit on some things that we're not going to hit on from a different demographic. I think it would be a good partnership with the high school and with business, and even like with government leaders within the schools. I think it's a great opportunity for us to partner with them and kind of bring in some of them to see.
That's a great idea.
I'd like to hear them in a listening
We
session.
did do that a few years ago.
Yeah.
It was okay. In terms of branding over the next 3 to 4 years, one issue, students they overturn.
Right, right.
You're looking at a 3 or 4 year campaign. I think there is something to be said about further professionalizing that. But, I mean, we're happy. We've got student interns in different programs all the time, so we're used to doing that. So that wouldn't be a problem if that's something you wanted to see.
I just think it'd be interesting to see, I remember going through the branding before, and it was really not coming up, a lot of what we're doing right now is people are thinking of slogans and statements. We're not at that point yet. We're at the point where saying, what is it that attracts people to Bartlett? Give us those keywords, give us those buzzwords, give us the things that are and that will become the statement. So we've got some really great things with the connecting and the opportunities. There's so much stuff right there, and we need more of those words and more of those things of what we are. Safety, that's another great one. And let the branding experts they're going to see how many times they hear it, from who they hear it from, and that's really where that slogan is going to come from. That's going to become all-encompassing. So I think it's really important that we keep hitting on these great words like this that are going to build, because it's really how we got Never Far Away.
Well, I think going back to when we were talking about assets of our community, we get families that move here and they stay. So we've got multi-generational families, which in a very transient society, I think it speaks very, very highly to us being an attractive, safe community with resources available. So I think continuing to underscore what you said about a partnership with students, I remember we did something similar with Spartan Marketing from ECC.
Right.
I think at least to have them participate in this, I think, again, goes to underpin that asset of us being very, very community-bound and family-oriented.
I don't think we need to reinvent the wheel. I've been here since '77. It's changed, but it's grown, and it's grown in a positive direction.
Mm-hmm.
So I instead of running out and hiring somebody, I'm more for the get a couple in here and let's interview them, and then talk to the people that they've worked with, the towns that they worked with, and did this consultant give you guys what you were looking for? What are they missing? I'm all for using other people's experiences. We're all in a hurry to put the elderly into elder care facilities. I think we should be putting them in schools to teach the youngsters. There's 75, 78, 82-year-olds that have been around the block a few times, whether it's business or politics or anything. It's a great asset that we overlook. And, but the town hasn't changed. It's always been family. It's always been baseball, football, people walking, biking. I mean, that's all stayed the same. The businesses have grown, and the businesses have grown to meet the demand of Bartlett, whether it's the business park, or the restaurants. And look at what's just happened in the past 2 years with Manny, redeveloping the plaza, and 120 Live, opening up. And JC's is benefiting from that downtown. More brewing will bring more people here. So it's just my 2 cents worth. The other thing is give the restaurants more opportunity to do outdoor seating. I don't know if planning and zoning, if everybody's doing the max, but maybe those rules could be revised to reflect the times.
Tony?
Am I off base in assuming that Bartlett is pretty much residentially built out? We don't have a lot of vacant spaces anymore to build residential property?
I mean, for the most part, yes. I mean, there is a large development coming down the pipeline over at the Crown property, But beyond that, it's mostly what I would characterize as infill type of locations. You've been seeing a lot of 25 houses here, 42 over there. The days of 400 at a time here, going all over the place. I mean, those sites have been more or less developed. But the Crown site, I mean, is pretty significant. And even tomorrow night before the board, our first apartment building that's been proposed in public for 40 years or so. I think the board's going to get a peek at that tomorrow night. We've been talking about it at the EDC for probably 3 years or 4. So long story short is it's not fully built out, but it's closer than, I mean, it's not going to double in population or anything like that.
So I remember the old Bartlett Pier days. There wasn't much going on in Bartlett at that time. In fact, I don't think we even had the business park
Right.
even going on. And then we evolved to not far away, was it, our latest slogan?
Yeah, never far
Never
away.
far away.
Uh-huh.
And I'm not sure there was even much going on at that time either.
There wasn't.
So now that we have the business park going, and our residential growth is pretty much established, and granted, we have one of the safest communities in Illinois, where are we going to direct our focus to now for a branding campaign? Is it going to be on the safe residential side?
Well, there still is.
Nice bedroom community to live in, or we're going to focus more towards the industrial growth side, or where's this going? I mean,
Well, a lot of the marketing would be used for advertising and trade show purposes and,
what are we going to stress, though?
I'm sorry?
What are we going to stress?
Well, I think that's part of the whole process. You know, I don't think it's an answer I can give you tonight sitting here. I think that's something that we develop through, you know, like Commissioner Laporte said, you know, how many consultants do you want? But then again, that's somebody who can gather my thoughts, your thoughts, the board's thoughts, the residents' thoughts, the restaurant's thoughts as a project, and then that's kind of how it takes shape. I'm telling you, we're discussing it from an economic development perspective, and how economic development will use it will be on promotional materials with developers, on email blasts that we send out at trade shows, and something where it conjures up an image of the town. I'm not going to say it's going to be like the Nike swish that everybody recognizes instantly, but it's something that people will associate with the town when they contemplate going here.
As you can see, Trustee Gansey's here she chairs the Community and Economic Development, so if she wants to chime in, we'd be more than
Right.
happy to.
First off, hello, everybody. It's so good to see you and come back on a Monday night. And thanks for all the support and
Good
everything.
to see you.
And for those who don't know me, I'm Stephanie Gansey. I don't think I've met Mr.
We haven't
Gansey
met.
before, so nice to meet you. So a little bit about me outside of the village of Bartlett is I do have a marketing and communication background, so this topic very much interested me. And it's great to see us looking at this since it's been, you know, a decade and a half since we had something new. And just a few things just from my expertise over the course of my career that I've kind of learned. You know, it starts with the branding or how we're talking about our community, and it's so awesome to hear everyone pinpoint. And I think what we're seeing tonight is, you know, different groups are going to pinpoint different things that they love about our community, and it's something we could take all of those things and kind of mold it together for our branding. But one of the biggest things that I would foresee, just based on my experience, it'd be interesting to see what the consultants say. But I would like to see a content marketing plan come out of this, because I would like to see more buzz on Bartlett. I feel like there are so many wonderful things here. We can all pick out things that we like. I still remember the post that Joe had on Facebook, and it's probably a year ago now when 120 Live opened, saying this is rivaling a bar in St. Charles. And I think those are the kind of things, that we're seeing. We're seeing the different groups, people who like to go out, people who like to go to different restaurants. We have families where we can think of singletons and what they'd like to do in Bartlett. And I think seeing, taking that brand and getting the content marketing that we can push out, so when people are looking for things to do, that Bartlett is popping up. I've seen there's a Facebook group called Make It Fun Family Adventures, and people are always posting like where you can go. We're looking for something fun. And I know, I'm sure you guys have done the same, but I've been recommending so many things in Bartlett in the last year and fun things to do, and not even just restaurants and things here, but even some of the paths, and then we have a state park, so it's like if you're outdoorsy. So to me, a lot of the key with this is getting the right messaging together, but really pushing it out so people in different groups are finding that. And the same with our business or industrial park, when we attend different trade shows or just anything where we're marketing Bartlett, that when someone then goes back and Googles Bartlett, Illinois business or industrial, that they're finding a lot of great content about our community, who we are, that we have what we have available to them, what the workforce would look like. So those are just some things I just wanted to mention. But I think it's so great that we have this group to take a look at everything and start hearing from the different consultants, because I do think it's different. It's going to be a different process than it was 15 years ago. And it's going to look different, and I think that's one of the things that we'll probably look for when we're listening to people's pitches. What has changed in that time, and what would they do going forward for a village like ours. So, does anyone have any questions or anything?
I think you make a really interesting point, Stephanie, in that, it's been 15 years since Bartlett branded itself, but it's more than just the actual words, and now we've got, a greater opportunity, giving more, breadth and depth to a plan because of social media. And I think what that invites is community engagement. So just as you said, Joe posting about 120 Live, I think that's something that would be important for us, is to give the community a tool in order, so that they have a better opportunity to attach themselves directly to the campaign as well, and keep it not just very lively, but very, very robust, which, and again, 15 years since the last branding campaign, I think you need to keep the messaging pretty fresh, because every town is going to go through some measure of attrition, whether it's through your dining and retail establishments, your industrial park, or your residential neighborhoods. So I think continue to, rotate those messages through, and again, to the different audiences is going to be critical moving forward.
Yes, agree.
Tony, I'm presuming by the way that this conversation has gone that this is already a budgeted item in the town's budget. I'm guessing that it is?
The best way to answer that is the full multi-year branding campaign is not yet.
Okay.
But what we have a general budget that we use for advertising and marketing.
Okay.
And I think we would utilize funds from that to pay the consultant this particular fiscal year.
Okay.
And then moving forward, let's say we're basically presenting a 3-year branding campaign, then we would have to budget accordingly the next several years. We're all sitting here and we could talk about the different places where we would use it, whether it's the Daily Herald or the Examiner publications, or online with Facebook ads or Instagram or whatever the case may be. Our economic development staff, we put together a budget every year, part of the overall budget that we present to the board every year, and a new line item probably in there would say, instead of just advertising X amount, we probably would also have something that would say branding campaign with some number attached to it.
Okay.
And it's going to be 10,000 or more, maybe 15 or 20.
Well, I know this isn't cheap, so.
Yeah, the branding, I mentioned to you, we interviewed, I think 4 or 5 municipal branding consultants, and the very lowest price basic, I'll help you generate a logo and slogan, is a few $1,000s, but we're not looking to spend hundreds of thousands on it, but somewhere in between. So we'll have to budget accordingly.
I just, from a standpoint of, you put up there, hey, this is our request, and I kind of went through your list. I mean, for me, perception research is important, engaging the community, whether it's residents and business is important, but also that schedule of implementation and then the strategy beyond just the initial launch. Those are, to me, of your list, those are the 4 keys. If you're looking to, okay, what specifically should we drive at?
Right.
I would say those. Looking at the past, I don't think that's going to be helpful. I mean, we already know what we've done, and we know, Tracy even mentioned it, it's been 15 years. So we need to look forward. I wouldn't look past at all. I would just look forward, and I would concentrate, at least from my opinion, looking at your list, these are the 4 areas I would focus on.
That's a good point, and it goes back to, again, when Trustee Gansey was on the EDC, and before that, when we looked at really making a shift from these one-time print ads that cost like $1,000 if you just happen to be looking at the Daily Herald on a Sunday.
Right.
Which let's face it, less and less people do every month that goes by. But with the targeted ads that Scott and I run on Facebook, you can say, I want to run it in Bartlett, Hanover Park, and Streamwood. I want to target people of a certain, Facebook's very granular when it comes to the way you can push it. The good part is that type of advertising typically costs less than print advertising. So the reason I answer your question or point that way is because the consultant might be more of a one-time expense, but the strategy that we implement for the following years will be something that we do. We're not going to have somebody write a Facebook ad for us that says, connect to our business park or something like that. We'll implement that. So that's why I put that last point, the implementation strategy, and we will have to budget for it. Might be a shift in our advertising. We've done a lot of cable TV ads that we've shown to the EDC over the years you might not be aware of, but we didn't do any last year. But like Small Business Saturday, we typically push that out pretty hard and allocate some money there. So I know I want that to be part of the branding plan. We have a lot of mom and pop businesses, so we want to make sure they're included. I could talk at length about it, but the scheduling, and you said the strategy beyond the initial launch, that's going to be something, we're going to definitely be looking for.
Tony, I'd like to get back to my initial thoughts on branding, the broader aspects of it. Branding is created to create awareness, right?
Right.
Who are we directing it to specifically? I mean, people that already live in Bartlett, I don't think we need to direct it specifically to them.
Well, part of the branding is for them as well to.
It's more directed to the outside people
It
who
more
don't
is,
live here,
but
right?
I guess what I'm trying to say here is some of both, because there's still, let me give you an example. Let's say there's a Bartlett family who lives on the far south end of town near Army Trail Road, and all the places that they patronize are in St. Charles. A lot of them, over the years, I've discovered, don't know all the things that are offered here in town. So a lot of times when we run ads on social media, you do get comments, or we put something in the Bart letter. A lot of people will say, I never knew there was a delicious, like a high-end restaurant here in downtown Bartlett. Like, a lot of people don't know that. So part of the branding isn't, besides getting outside money to come and invest into the community, part of it is, I'm sure a lot of the advertising is going to be used, once we get to the advertising aspect of it, to brand our own businesses to our own residents. And all these newer residents as well.
I think it goes back to an earlier conversation we had a few months ago where the village residents don't know how successful our business parks are. You know, everybody tends to think of Bartlett as down here and 120 Live and O'Hare's and all that stuff. And I'm picturing a 45 to 60-second video that hits everything. Kid fishing, kid kicking a soccer ball, business park, restaurants, bicycle riding, all that kind of stuff. One 60-second video that encompasses everything, and then a 4-page newsletter that bullet points what's great for residents, bullet points what's great for businesses. To learn more, go to this website.
Right. I'm with you on the video. And something that's like evergreen enough, that's not like
Fast moving,
something
not
like,
slow.
you know, shows multiple businesses quickly, and so something that's not going to be obsolete if you focus on a business that leaves or closes, yeah, something
Right, I
that
think
could
it is
last a few years.
It is important to bring in the younger generation, some input, you know, what Instagrammer has influencers. You know, if we hired an influencer to promote the ice cream shop in Bartlett, could we get an extra 1,000, 20-somethings here, teenagers here a weekend? Who knows? I mean, but it's beyond my realm of,
Yeah, maybe we should budget to at least pay a couple influencers a few times.
so.
Maybe there's influencers right here in Bartlett.
But isn't branding actually a tool to create awareness outside of the Bartlett area?
Yeah, that's what we're
Attract
saying, like the main
people-
thrust of that is.
To Bartlett?
I'm sorry?
Isn't it a tool to create awareness outside of the Bartlett area? So we attract people to Bartlett for any specific reason?
That's part of it,
Yes.
but I would say part of it too is to wake up some of the residents that,
I think that's a big part of it, but if you're going along the way and you're developing this branding strategy and it makes your stakeholders feel good about what they're consuming, as a part of that, I think it's a good thing too.
I guess I kind of see two separate issues here. We're all aware of, and we've discussed in the past, that there's a lot of people that live in Bartlett who are not aware of what's going on in Bartlett. Okay, so that's, to me, that's a separate issue. We have to make them aware and attract them to the downtown area and everything. But then there's the people outside of Bartlett. Who are we trying to attract?
Right, and I'm telling you, it's industrial, retail, restaurants, investors,
Yeah,
office
exactly.
users.
Yeah, right. People that come in and visit our downtown area.
Wouldn't you
Come on
add
in,
to that,
go back
Tony,
home, yeah.
families that want to live here, not just the business side of it? You want to attract
Could be
families
used for that.
who would go into the businesses that are here in Bartlett?
Yeah, I'm not here to say what we can or cannot use it for. I think that would be a nice use of a branding campaign. I wouldn't say that would be the focus of it. I would say that's something that we can utilize it for.
Well, I would like everyone to know, in Bartlett and outside of Bartlett, that we have the highest rated, or one of the highest rated police forces in the northwest suburbs. We probably have the lowest crime rate in the northwest suburbs. I think we should have people that live in Bartlett and outside of Bartlett know that.
So who's that going to attract?
Someone who wants to live in a safe place.
We're already built out. We're not getting that many.
Houses
people
come up
moving
for
in,
sale
so-
all the time.
Yeah, you get a few people moving in and out. It's not a large influx or outflow.
If you want to
I think
brand,
branding is a bigger overall issue about,
Branding, when it's done correctly, is all-encompassing. It's going to touch upon all these things. It's going to allow us to attract both businesses and consumers. It's going to allow us to continue to keep them. It's going to allow us, our businesses, to have a bigger wallet share of our consumers within town. We talk a lot about downtown. You get a great point bringing up the industrial park. There's a lot of people in the village of Bartlett who don't even know Rana pasta is made here. So maybe if they knew that when they're at the Jewel, they would pick up a bag of Rana pasta, which also helps our village. So when we do branding correctly, it's going to touch all these things. To Stephanie's point, it's got to have the legs. We've got to be able to have it have this time where it's going to be able to be used in different ways. So it's not a one-size thing. It's going to touch everything. If we do it correctly, it's going to help in all areas.
I guess my question is there a major focus that branding focuses on?
No, I'd let,
Does it start at the top and kind of build down and branch out, or is there a major focus at the top and then it cascades down, or how does it work?
well, I think
Definitely-
Commissioner
definitely.
Erickson kind of just touched
Know
on that.
more
I mean,
about this.
I think what Scott and I would spend a lot of time using it on is business attraction.
We're in a unique position right now in Bartlett. 15 years ago, we didn't have an industrial park. We were still developing the town center, so we had a very unique purpose for it. Now we have great homes. I mean, most of our homes are already built up. To your point, people are coming and going. People are staying multi-generations. So we have all these different things. Things have changed. Things have shifted. We have a great town center. We have an amazing industrial park. So now what our branding has to do is just kind of keep pace with who we are now and what we have to offer businesses, consumers, helping that retention rate, helping make people think about spending your money in Bartlett first.
Bingo.
Just, yeah, have 100%, have a piece of pie, a piece of the pie. 25% we talk about restaurants, 25% we talk about school,
Well, I think part of telling that story is, again, re-engaging the residents and the business community and surveying them and just asking them the simple question, what would you like somebody else to know about your town or your business and why you live here or why you have your business here? And I think, a simple, straightforward answer from somebody, a stakeholder who's invested here, I think that's the most compelling message that you could give to somebody from outside of the community. And perhaps to even somebody within the community that wasn't perhaps conscious of the benefits and the assets of living in Bartlett. So I like the idea that, on your second and third bullet points, you're talking about engaging the business community and the residents. And, Nan, I'm sorry, I think it's important that, the chamber get involved with this as well, that they talk. I mean, we've got some businesses that have been here for decades. I think it's important that they tell their story as well as to why they're here.
I think the growth in commerce and industry is almost to the max. I don't think we're going to be attracting new businesses here because there won't be any place to build. I think the same thing goes true with the residents. There's not going to be a whole lot of new development in residents. So what do?
Well, I would disagree with you on the businesses because, again, we're still a dynamic community. People put their houses on the market, and so we still want to attract those new residents, and businesses decide to either move on or close.
If you would have let me finish, I could explain what I meant.
Sorry, I thought you had finished your statement.
So the concept is that we want to project a place that's good to live for families. Other things will come. If people see Bartlett as a safe, good, family town, people will come. Businesses will come. They want to know that they're going to be safe on the streets, their kids aren't going to get robbed at night, and there's good places to go. That always sells. And we've got it. Bartlett has it.
Well, we're all in agreement on that. And the only other point I was going to make towards that was even over the period of just a few years, priorities can shift. Different types of businesses can be targeted. We want it to be broad enough to apply to both trying to attract a grocery store and also to convey this is a great place to come for an event, a summer concert, or something of that nature. We definitely want to incorporate the safety of the town in the messaging, because that's important, but it's not going to be the only message that we convey, when we're trying to attract investment to the town.
It should be broad and all-encompassing. When somebody starts a business or applies for a job, they're not just looking at that business or that job. They're saying, well, do I like the area? Would my family like the area? Would my spouse like the area? I wonder what the schools are like. I wonder what the sports is like. I wonder what the arts programs are like. I wonder what the safety is like. So, branding is encompassing to all people of all aspects of life, When I applied for a job here, that's the things I thought about. I mean, I grew up here, so I knew the town, but I thought, well, would I like to eat out here? Would my wife like to be here? Would I want to raise kids here someday?
Is it safe?
Right, yeah, that's a big component.
You're right, though, Bob. Safety is a phenomenal asset. But, I think it's, we need to have some diversity in that, in the assets that really underpin the brand. And again, I think that's important. One of the reasons that's so important is because, again, we're a dynamic community. We've seen, turnover in businesses, we've seen turnover in residents, and again, we're a living, breathing organism, and we just need to keep those, diversity in that messaging. So and again, as it relates to priorities,
Well, safety is. safety-
taxes are going to be priorities, especially in Cook County for businesses or even residents.
Safety is one of.
Good government.
Safety is one of many items, as you pointed out. But where do you put, in this line of things, where do you put it, at the top or at the bottom? Where does safety come in? Where does safety come in for your family, for your kids, for walking down the street, for getting robbed? Where does it come in, at the top or at the bottom?
It's not at the top or the bottom, Bob, because it's a priority for, it ranks differently as a priority for different people and different businesses. I mean, when we talk about the assets, we don't even have to rank them or force rank them, A to Z or 1 to 10. We can actually put them in a star chart, where we can blow that out, so people would actually see the different assets. And again, it's incumbent upon the individual or the individual business to make that decision as to what's a priority. But I do agree wholeheartedly that highlighting the fact that Bartlett is one of the safest communities for its size is going to be important, especially for families. And when I was still in communications, we had a production office in Cicero, and my staff was walking me to the parking lot at night. We regularly had, gang activity out there. So now the fact that I know that I can leave here tonight or leave a restaurant or even visit one of my, friends in the business park, I can go there at night and still feel safe. So nobody's disputing it. I just think that we've got a lot of assets. And again, we were talking about, families coming in, sports. We've got the most green space of any of the northwest suburbs for a town our size, which is important.
Sure. Yeah, well, we could make a list of all the good things about Bartlett.
Right.
But like you said, if you have crime and if you have people getting robbed and you got one of the highest crime rates in the northwest suburbs, it doesn't matter how much you advertise for businesses or for people, it ain't gonna do any good.
Well, fortunately, we don't have to worry about that because we are safe. And that it is part of the algorithm that businesses and people use as they move here. It's one of many categories, and fortunately for us, that's not one we have to worry about.
Yeah. We'll start looking into some consultants that work on these types of programs. We wanted to discuss it with you tonight and also get some ideas on, like I said, some bullet points that are missing. I think Trustee Gansey talked about a content marketing plan, and then one of the commissioners mentioned a schedule, and a similar point, to leave us with a plan of how to implement this.
So many good businesses.
What I'm asking now or suggesting is that we bring in some consultants to make presentations to the EDC, so you can see, what branding specialists for towns, what kind of work that they do, how they go about it. they'll know about it a lot more than I will, or that a lot of us will, and how to get the most public input. And as Commissioner Smadilla said, not to say one point is the most important and another one is less important, but to get ideas from a number of stakeholders to see. You can't really mesh every single point about any town into a couple of words and images. But if there's something that you can do and hit on some of those keywords, I love the first two keywords we talked about in January, connections and opportunities. And to see, if that's a starting point or if there's some other thing we haven't thought of at all. So I guess that's what we're proposing, is to bring in some consultants over the next couple of meetings to show what they do and how we might go about this. Is that something I'm seeing some nodding? Okay.
Are you asking for a motion to bring in some consultants then?
I don't know if we need a motion for that. We just wanted to get some of your input for now. I think we are going to move forward with the project.
All right.
But between now and then, and it doesn't even have to be before the next EDC meeting, if there's some other point, if you want to go, everybody wants to research a little bit about municipal branding campaigns, and this is a little mush up of like 3 or 4 other towns in the area, what I saw they did. Took like when we created the BEDA program, took a few elements that look good from a few other towns and make it our own. Something, a good branding campaign that'll raise awareness across multiple sectors, whether it's for attracting residents, whether it's bringing our own residents to shop and participate more in town, whether it's some industrial developer from California who's thinking about buying a building, or whether it's that elusive second grocer, that just something that kind of encapsulates the town kind of nicely and helps us put our best foot forward.
Sounds good.
Okay? All right, thank you. We'll continue working on that then. This won't be the last, this is like the first conversation about branding, not the last one.
And like I said, don't ever forget, we're here every day. We work, you folks are residents, we work for you, so just reach out to us anytime you have any questions, or if you see something in the process that you may want to change or consider. We're here for you.
So Commissioner Gorski's been pretty active, I think, in the community for a while. So would you mind just recapping the 4 points that you had suggested as priorities?
Yeah, sure. The way I outlined it, based on what your request was, is that perception research is important. We should engage the business community as well as the residents. The next component was the schedule of implementation, and then my final point was the strategy beyond the initial launch.
Right. That's important.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay, then. Thank you, commissioners, for the most spirited discussion I can remember in recent memory, and thank you for Trustee Gansey for her contribution to the discussion. And we can move on to the next agenda item then, new business.
I don't have much to add tonight. I just want to mention that everybody's probably heard the 4th of July festivities are going to be ramped up once again, and our business community and residents are pretty excited about that. I'm not the expert on it, but, spread the word. If anybody hasn't heard, any of your neighbors or friends, let them know.
It's amazing how word gets around on that and how many people it attracts. Perfect example of branding.
It is a good example of branding, and Bartlett is well-known for the Fourth of July festivities
Yep.
outside of the town.
And we're a
Outside
national
of town,
award winner
yeah.
for National Night Out.
National Night Out.
Yeah, which is, I think, is bringing people in too. So as we move on this particular branding campaign, and obviously marketing and communication is rolled under that, I hope that there's an opportunity for more event marketing, which again, I think attracts people, the same way St. Charles has their Scarecrow Fest, we see Swedish Days in Geneva. I think we've got an opportunity to create something even beyond the Fourth of July festival that would be omnipresent, again, family-friendly. I think we tried something called, it was like the Kickstart or Kickstand Classic, and I don't know if that's something that the promoter would be bringing back, or what the success was, or if it cost the village anything. If there, you know what?
A lot. We actually did an RFP for that to try to attract the Kickstand Classic against many other communities, and we're fortunate enough that they chose ours. It took a lot of manpower and a lot of money, but they no longer do those suburban events. So we had a great relationship with them. It was really nice for a couple of years. We're happy we did it, but they don't do that anymore.
Well, I think we'll look forward to partnering with our trustee liaison for more events going forward.
I think Fourth of July is almost an unintentional example of branding. We're not trying to do it, but it's doing it.
It continued to grow for many years. It's well-run. It goes also to the safety issue that Commissioner Perry was talking about. It incorporates a lot of those different things that makes it an attractive event.
Even the BEDA program that you folks help foster is a part of branding. I mean, every BEDA we've had has made it into the Daily Herald. The mileage that we get from something like that is pretty significant. And I mean, even take a look at tonight. You know, you're recommending $2,000 if that goes to the board and that's approved and that's in the Herald. I mean, that's $2,000 worth of advertising right there. So the things that you do that aren't connected to the slogan or the strategy continuously are a part of our branding as well.
That's a great point. I gotta just add, when it does make it into the Herald and we share that on our Facebook and our LinkedIn, we get thousands of views on it. And a lot of you, if you read the comments on those, you'll say, oh yeah, hey, let's check this place out. People tag each other all the time and say they should, meet up there. That is good branding, the BEDA program, absolutely. And as recently as last week, another town contacted me about how do you do it, how do you fund it, what are the parameters. It's been copied a few times, and it'll continue to be.
Tony, I had many residents ask me about the sign on the Crown property. Can you explain what's going on there?
The Crown property is coming in for a concept plan. They're looking to move forward to a full submittal to the village board at some point in the near future. I don't have all the details in front of me, but what it is it's a multi-phase residential development. I think maybe 4 or even 5 phases, and includes some single family, includes some townhomes, a little bit of commercial on the corner that I can assure you Scott and I are sending to desirable retailers that we're trying to attract. So it's not something you're going to see built all at once in 2021. You're going to see construction there probably for the next 2, 3, or 4 years. But it's mostly residential.
Mostly
Like I
residential,
mentioned,
probably
that's the
starting
last
next year.
very big residential site. That's
With a little commercial thrown in.
I'm sorry?
With a little commercial thrown in.
I think 5, I want to say 5 acres right on the corner. And the overall site's, significant. It's like 130 some odd acres.
Over 100 acres.
Yeah. It's been a site begging for development since I started here and even before that.
Speaking of begging for development, has there been any traction on the parcel that's the southwest corner of 20 and 59?
That's an interesting and not easy question, is that have maintained interest in the site. I should even say interest from multiple parties. And that's something that we're analyzing and actually going to continue to analyze to try to put our best foot forward, as I say, on that. To bring, I'm going to say honestly, to bring the most sustainable long-term development to that site
Great.
that we can. So that site hasn't been forgotten. I know I've talked about it here before. There were going to be so many apartments or this or that, but it's still a live site with interested developers.
Great, thank you.
What site were we just discussing, or are we still talking?
Yes, about the
Crown?
southwest corner of Route 59 and Lake Street. The village owns 11 acres, and
that the
it's
one
in
Robert
TIF
was
district.
No, that's a different one.
Okay.
That's the one you were asking about? Southwest corner?
Yes, I was inquiring about Lake Street and
Yeah.
59, and Crown is at
Crown,
Bartlett Road and
West Bartlett.
West
and-
Bartlett Road and 59.
That's where the housing development is on tap, with the 5 acres on the corner.
So that's coming along?
Yes.
Is the Crown development, is that all like full retail type housing, or is that going to be, is it going to be income assisted housing?
No, a market rate, yeah.
Can I bring up one other thing then for new business? Since we're talking about social media, and it has been really great, and we've gotten a lot of great, wonderful things. The Chamber's website continues to have great hits. Shannon's website with Bartlett to Go, Discover Bartlett, we've had some amazing, amazing things. But we also have some incredible ugliness going on. And I think as a chamber member and everything, I think that it would be really great for the chamber and the village to work together to kind of assist some of these businesses and reminding people that you're supporting a local business. This isn't, like a big chain place. This isn't Chili's or, some national whatever it is. But I'd really like for the chamber and the village to kind of work together and explore creating like some kind of like buck slip or something that the different restaurants or different, dry cleaners or whoever, whatever type of business, can put on their to-go things, saying something like, thank you for supporting a local business, keeping it local, some kind of a message. I don't want to get into specifically what the message needs to be, but just an appreciation that you are keeping business here in Bartlett. They could also put it when they get their bills at the restaurants, just kind of slide it in there a little bit about, we appreciate seeing you tonight. Great to, you're supporting Bartlett, because this ugliness this weekend for a particular place really got out of hand. And there's some just amazing comments when you think about these are people's livelihoods and people's businesses, and just how quick somebody will just post on social media a negative, nasty thing. And it would just be nice if we just kind of tried to show and support. We could never stop people from stating their opinion. I'm not saying if you have a bad experience, you shouldn't say something. I don't think social media is the first place that you need to say it, but we can't stop that, and that's not the point of this. I think the point would be just to say that, we're all one village, and we're here to support these people who choose to do business in this village. And I think if we just kind of, take the high road and take that positive thing, and if the chamber and the village could kind of work together on partnering something, just saying that, how important it is to keep your business in Bartlett, that could really kind of go a long way for some of those haters that perhaps would think twice before they posted something.
It's funny that you say that, because I ordered something online recently, and I got a business card size little thank you, just basically that. It was just this cute little note that thank you so much for supporting our business. And it's been sitting on my counter for the last 3 weeks while I've been thinking, how can we do this? Because it was just a really nice touch, just as a reminder that they appreciated the business. And
You bought something at Ace Hardware. Is that where it's from?
no,
They do that. Okay, never mind.
They do that, yeah, they do.
no, I did it online, but it just, like I said, it's been sitting there, and I'm thinking, how can we, because it made a difference. I stopped and thought about it when I saw it.
I think think we just need more of that positive spin, some of that, especially as you're going to go into this bigger, deeper branding campaign. Part of it is going to have a social media component, and part of that is going to create more of these negative posts. It's just the other side of the coin. It's going to happen. And so if we can just kind of have something that really reminds people that these are other local families that have chosen to open up shop here, and so you didn't like whatever you ordered, go someplace else. No, don't put it all on there, I mean, it's a bit out of hand. So I'd like to propose that we as a chamber kind of start looking with the village if there's something we can tie in together and create something.
Well, it's always a little bit frustrating to me too when Shop Local Saturday comes along and, I go to the EDC like in Hanover Park and different things, and people are all, well, what is the chamber doing for Shop Local Saturday? We do it every day of the year. That is what we're all about, is shop local, support local. So
Maybe that's our message. We're doing this every day. It's not one day and Saturday.
it's not, and so, like, what are you doing special for the Shop Local Saturday? It's like, the same thing we do every other day. And so I get frustrated sometimes when people want us to do something, and it's like, wait, that's all we do.
Yeah. Well, I think that that's a great point, Nan. I think that we can put that spin into this, is that we're here every single day supporting these businesses.
And trying to get others to do the same. And even our last directory, which I should bring some next time I come, but I mean, it was really all about shopping local, keeping it local, and it has different little articles from experts on how much of your tax money stays in the village when you shop local as opposed to going online, or shopping big box compared to little, and what an impact. And they're doodled throughout the whole book. Hopefully that maybe some people might see, and it might kind of register, and maybe they might tend to shop local.
Well, hopefully when the Karens of the world are, posting their erroneous and mean-spirited comments, the proprietors of these businesses or restaurants will chime in to say, hey, we didn't realize you had such a bad experience, because that's not, who we are or what we represent, and, please give us an opportunity to make it right. Yeah, I don't like the complainers like that. Take it to the source, not to the public square.
And then it's so awful, because when you say something, they're like, well, I have a right to opinion. And of course you do. Absolutely you do. But that opinion should have been given to the owner first, or someplace
Right.
before it created this damage, I mean, people are forming their impressions. So, I mean, I think as we do our branding and everything, we do need to be very cognizant of how do we keep that positive message on there? How do we keep, how do we get a phone away from Karen? I don't know, I think it's important to think about. My 2 cents.
Okay, if we have no further discussion, we entertain the last agenda item, adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
I know everybody's in favor, but say aye anyways.
Aye.
Yay.
Thank you.
Meeting adjourned. See you next month.